So, George, you heard it there from the senator's own mouth. He feels as though Nord Stream should be directly tied to what's happening along the border with Ukraine. What of that? Are the two matters related?
Well, it's the very thing that they accused Russia of being likely to do if the Nord Stream 2 was completed. In other words, using natural gas as a political weapon. Now it's Senator Cruz that wants to use natural gas as a political weapon. It's not often I say this, but the Democratic Party leader in the House got it right when he said this bill punishes Germany, not Russia. And Cruz's further comments that Putin was desperate for this pipeline and that they would use it as a cudgel against the European allies is the absolute opposite of the truth. It's the European allies that want the pipeline, want the stable supply of cheap natural gas that will never be interrupted for political reasons. All of the history of Russian gas supplies proves that, even when people don't pay their bills, like Ukraine didn't pay its bills, it's still got the gas. And of course, Putin is very far from desperate. But in this bitter cold winter, I've got to tell you, the European consumers are desperate because we have never known gas prices so high, astronomically high, so that not just the ordinary man in the street, but a better paid man in the street, like me, can tell you, my goodness, our gas bills have really risen. There's a great shortage of gas here, and therefore a great rise in price.
Now, George, however, Chris Murphy went on to say this, and I'm largely paraphrasing here, but he said that the U.S. needs to deliver a crushing set of sanctions against Russia if they enter Ukraine any further. Any further is the key term here. What is he talking about? Haven't the Russians remained on their side of the border?
Absolutely, yes. And of course, they're already sanctioning Russia for what happened in Crimea, where the people that live there and have always lived there voted by more than 90% to rejoin Russia, because almost all of them are Russians. And when the coup took place in Kiev, they could not countenance living under the coup regime that then came to power. So he might mean that, or he might be seeking by double entendre to imply that there are Russians in Ukraine. There are not, of course, and there are not likely to be Russians in the Ukraine. But the policy of the United States is beginning to tilt that balance. And Mr. Lavrov said today that Russia was ready to go because it could not wait any longer for a satisfactory answer to its core national interests. And all these talks in the week in Vienna and in Brussels appear to have come to naught, Manila.
Yeah. Now, George, Russia is responding to NATO's encroachment by saying it's not off the table that they might set up shop in Cuba and Venezuela, effectively giving the U.S. a taste of its own medicine. But is that a sound manner, George, in approaching this issue?
Well, President Putin's a more cautious man than me. If it was me, the Russian forces would already be in Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, Ethiopia, and Chinese forces too. Because if the United States can have its forces on the borders with Russia and China, what conceivable logical reason could you advance to say that Russia and China are not entitled to do the same thing? So the United States would indeed be getting a taste of its own medicine. And I myself would already have given them it. This idea of American exceptionalism, that they can go anywhere in the world, set up nuclear and other bases anywhere in the world, next to anybody they don't like, and persistently threaten them with oblivion, but no one can do the same to the United States. that's for the birds, you know, Manila. That belongs in that very brief period of unipolar power in the world, which is well and truly at an end now.
Yeah, as they say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, George. Last thing here, the news just breaking is the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, is apparently proposing a trilateral talk between Ukraine, Russia, and the U.S. Do you think the three leaders are going to take up that offer?
Well, I'm always in favor of talks. As Mr. Churchill said, jaw is better than war. And we are, as the OSCE said yesterday, very close now to a European war. Very, very close. If you're talking about a clock, we're just seconds from midnight on the prospects of a European war. And if there is a European war, trust me, there'll be one over Taiwan running simultaneously at the same time. So if these talks are serious and genuine, I'm absolutely not opposed to them. I'd wholeheartedly support them. But nothing has been done on the Minsk agreement. No implementation of it has been done. The US has not forced Ukraine to implement its side of the bargain. I wouldn't hold my breath for a successful outcome.